Hello, everyone. I hope that you are all doing great and that the semester has been going good and that you're all doing well in your classes. For me, some of my classes did start to pile up a little bit, but I managed to get through them and meeting deadlines, so, just going through it. But when it comes to what I've been doing lately, I've been focused on school, really, like, been really focusing on school, like I said before, but also in work. I've been kind of like really bombarded with work, so that's been keeping me really busy. But yeah, other than that, I know I mentioned on my last two videos, I think, that I started reading, and I did finish the book. And I really enjoyed the ending. It was different, and like I said, it was a very easy read, but I still enjoyed it. And now I'm about to start on my second book, which is called The Power of Now. I found these books online, like they're just suggestions that I found, so I have no idea of like how good they are. But now these videos, this weekly videos, kind of feel like a journey. Like I'm just documenting my journey. So hopefully, who knows if I'll finish all the books by the end of the semester, which would be great. I would be really happy if I did that. But let's move on to the assignment. So for this assignment, I decided to do research on Alvin Berg. And I do have a checklist here on the screen, so if you see me looking back and forth, it's because of that. So a few things about Alvin Berg. He was born in 1885, and he passed away in 1935. He was born in Vienna, and he's an Austrian composer. Growing up, he was very well off, and this changed not until his father passed away, which takes an important toll after. It has a great effect on his life afterwards when it comes to musical. So I'll go a little bit in depth into that. But yes, he had, along with his siblings, there were four total, and he was taught piano by their governess. And this is when he began to start composing music and just getting into the music field. And that's how he kind of like got introduced to all this new field. When he was very young, he wrote about he wrote piano duets, and he wrote about 80 songs. So that's about like the beginning of like how he was. And then later in life, he was able to study music, and this is with Schoenberg, and he started as a student of harmony, then as a counterpoint, and then eventually as music theory. But then after that, so he went to kind of like four stages. Then he became a composition student, and he was heavily influenced by him. And you can see the effect that he had on him, not only through the music, but also personally, which I mentioned how his father had passed away. There's like this like looking for that father figure in Schoenberg, and that really had an impact on him. So there's the personal impact, but also like on the musical style and compositions and all of that stuff. During this time, like we learned in the lesson, music was predominantly romantic, but he would also work along with Anton Webern, and like I said before, Arnold Schoenberg. They began to compose atonal music. So this has all the 12 notes, and it's just cohesive sound while still having every single note possible. Some of his famous work includes, these are very hard words to pronounce, so I'm very sorry if I say them wrong. I apologize for that. But he has the Kammer Concert. He did this in 1925, and it was a piano, a violin, and it included 13 wind instruments. But we have other few pieces like Wozzeck, Lulu, and the 7 early songs. These are some of like his most, I guess, iconic works, or like that people recognize him for. So yes, when it comes to the music, the musical description that I decided to focus on, it is called Piano Sonata OP1. So a little background about this musical piece. It was composed in 1908, and that was his first work that was published. This doesn't mean it was the first one he did, but it was just the first one that he ever published. This piece as I mentioned before, working with Arnold Schoenberg, it just represents the change that he went through and how he was influenced by him. So this is like a really symbolic change in his style. Um, One of the first things I noticed about this musical piece is how open it feels, and I know that I keep going back to that, but for some reason, this music is just like creating the sense of space for me. Um, there's also slight gaps. That's what I was able to recognize. I really don't know what the correct musical term would be for that, but it just felt like a small gap between the notes, which it made it far more interesting. We do notice a few musical elements, obviously. So I'm just going to go over a few of them. So we do see repetition and variation throughout the whole musical piece. When you're listening to it, it has a sense of, it just feels familiar, like you're listening to a cohesive piece, but also it just feels different at certain times, and that was done to the variation and the accents and stuff like that. So it was really nice. Um, so yes, when it comes to the dynamics, um, we notice that there is a combination of like piano and forte when it comes to that, but it's predominantly piano. So what happens is that in the music, there's like crescendos and decrescendos. So when one of the things I noticed was that when you were at the decrescendo, so the piano piece, part of the musical piece, it was very soft and it was just more open. But when you were trying to get into the crescendos, it just felt tighter and it was louder. But yes, and overall, the beat and the tempo of the song, as in like in specific sections, like I mentioned, it kind of speeds up, and in other parts it slows down. So when you're like at that piano tone, it kind of slows down. It's a little bit more calm. But once you get into those crescendos, then that's when it speeds up and it just feels like more rapid and sped up. Um, Also, most importantly, I feel like it is very representative of the musical style that was emerging during this time. So um, I think it's very nice for us to be able to have these like examples and be able to recognize a few things. I know that there's still a lot to learn from this, but I think it's like I can kind of like now start to like pinpoint a few differences that I'm noticing on these pieces from different periods, or the periods that we have been taught so far. And then, so to conclude, my thoughts. What are my thoughts about and opinions on the composer's music and the things you learn in your research? So there's a few things that I want to mention. So first of all, this was something that I was not fully used to, but um, the music is very long. And I don't mean that in a negative way. It was just very surprising because like I'm used to modern music where it's like 3 minutes max. Like now you're talking about 2 minutes and 50 seconds. But a lot of the pieces that I was looking at were 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. I know I found some that were like 48 minutes. So that was something that really struck me of like how complex that must be. Like it must be really hard to, keep your audience engaged for 20 minutes and stuff like that. But it's really represented. And I thought it was really interesting. And it just goes to show off how much of a skill they have. I think I think it would be hard to make a 3 minute song. I think it's even harder to compose and make a whole piece for like 30 minutes. So I thought that was a really interesting thing and I genuinely enjoyed it. And I mentioned before, but I was just really interested on how Arnold Schoenberg had an impact on him, on Alban Berg, sorry. And it was like at a personal level because like they worked together so much for like such a long time. He would compose for him and stuff like that. So when knowing like he just became that father figure because for Alban his father passed away when he was young. So it did have an impact personal. So it was just very interesting, and I think like maybe that even plays a stronger role in on the impact he had because yeah, it's one thing to be taught music and have like that that experience being taught to you and passed on to you, and like the new ideas and like just evolving. But I think when it hits you at a personal level, then that's when it has an even stronger impact on you as a person. And I'm pretty sure, I'm almost confident that it also had a very strong impact on his music and composing and just his style overall. um, when it came to the research, it was very extensive, and I was reminded of many things that we have learned through the weeks. Obviously, through the research, there was a lot of key terms, or it was just like described in many ways that I was a little bit, I just was not familiar with. Like I said, the research was very extensive, and it was interesting because you can see the journey, but as a person who doesn't fully understand um, classical music, it was just a little not tough, but it was just a little difficult to fully grasp on or be able to grasp these details and make it into a full picture. I think what I've been liking so far is that even though like I'm trying to memorize these words of like the names or the key terms that we've been learning, right? I think I even though like sometimes I'm like, oh, what is that called? But I can recognize them that now, and I think that's really awesome, and I'm really enjoying that like new journey and like listening to music because now I recognize that. So so yeah, that's something that has been really hitting me now, like just listening to music, even if it's not classical, but like just anything now. So that's something that I'm really happy about. So yes, so on that note, I would like to finish by saying that I hope that you are still having a great semester. I hope that you enjoy watching my video, and I'll see you next week, hopefully in the next video. And yeah, let's keep going, and let's finish strong with the semester. Thank you.